Hi, this is Mike Pettigrew, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode. And today, we're going to look at how our dominant thoughts and emotions actually create the circumstances of our lives, or in other words, how your dominant thoughts and emotions create all your successes and all your failures. Now, I know how harsh that may sound. It may sound like we are trapped in our thoughts and our emotions. If they really do create the circumstances of our lives, is there something we can do to change our dominant thoughts and emotions? Because if what we're pumping out into our environment is not particularly positive, and that's what we're reflecting back, it can feel often like a trap that we are stuck. But there is a way, and I'll share this with you later. There is a way to change our dominant thoughts and emotions. Human beings have a lot more ability than we often take credit for. And we all make choices at every single moment of our lives. Every moment is a choice, and what we choose today has massive effect on what we become in the future and what we achieve. Now, I had an amazing experience. Many years ago, I was in Peru with best-selling author Dannion Brinkley, and it was an amazing trip. And I visited Machu Picchu, which is an ancient city high up in the Andes Mountains. And it's a stunningly beautiful place because you're actually above the clouds. And when I was there, the weather was fantastic, beautiful sunny sky. And as I say, in Machu Picchu, because you're so high up, you're actually above the clouds. You're looking down and the clouds are swirling below you. It's magical. But there is a part of Machu Picchu known as the Hitching Post of the Sun. And it's like an outdoor temple. And there's a big rock. And there's a kind of a prong sticking up, a vertical prong sticking up out of that rock. And I was up at the Hitching Post of the Sun with a group of people. And I looked down and there was this amazing circular rainbow. I've never seen a circular rainbow before that or since. And I don't understand how light reflects or refracts to create a completely circular rainbow. But that's what we all saw down below the mountain. And I suddenly noticed, I raised my hand and I saw my own hand at the center of the rainbow reflected back, and then I waved my hand, and even though the rainbow was almost 360 degrees, there was a little gap in the center, and as I waved my hand, I saw a reflection of my own hand waving back, and I thought, this is extraordinary. So one of the people in the group that I was with, I said, look, are you seeing this? And they said, not seeing anything. I said, look, I'm waving my hand. Can you see anything? No, I just see a circular rainbow. I said, okay, wave your hand. And they waved their hand, and they could see their own hand waving back. Not mine, I couldn't see theirs. And, several of us in the group tried this experiment, and we could only see our own hand waving back. And this is a bit like how our environment, or how the rainbow of life itself reflects back to us according to what we're transmitting out emotionally through our emotions and our thoughts, our dominant thoughts and emotions. And amazingly, ancient Eastern texts from the Orient tell us that our minds actually affect our environment in more than in 3,000 different ways. At every single moment of our lives, we are transmitting out into and affecting our environment in 3,000 different ways. And you may feel, that's all well and good, it's just philosophy, it can't be real. But this is not just philosophy, because all around the world, scientists have discovered that sensitive scientific experiments can actually be influenced by the observer or the scientist who's conducting the experiment. And these experiments have been done in all sorts of laboratories around the world. This is nothing new, but sensitive experiments can be influenced by the mind of the observer. And if this is true, then it means that our own thoughts and our own emotions are definitely affecting our environment. And I believe, through my own experience, that what we experience in life is a result of our dominant thoughts and emotions. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment and give, relate to a personal experience about that. But let's look for a moment at what science says about this. Now, there have been experiments into the growth of plants, and I'm not going to go into all the detail here, but I just want to give you a snapshot of what science is saying. There have been experiments conducted into the rate of growth and the strength of growth of plants, and two identical plants in a laboratory in identical conditions, given the same heat, light and nutrients, when the mind of one observer focuses on the plant and sends feelings of gratitude or love or care, that plant has been seen to grow quickly, more rapidly. Other experiments have been done where opposite emotions have been sent to the plant, feelings of anger, frustration, and the growth of the plants are stunted. Now, these experiments have been replicated in lots of laboratories, so our minds, our thoughts and emotions really do affect physical matter. And there was a Japanese scientist by the name of Masaru Emoto. He died, quite recently. But Masaru Emoto, his studies into the crystallizing water crystals growing in very cold water, he's found exactly the same. He's discovered the very same findings that if you see any snowflake, no two snowflakes are ever identical. The same is true of crystals, water crystals that form in ice cold water, freezing water that's beginning to freeze. They all have a unique crystalline shape. But Dr. Masaru Emoto discovered that if certain emotions are transmitted or are directed at the water sample, that the structure, the crystalline structure that forms is completely different if we focus on the water sample with love or gratitude or higher emotions, might say, compared to feelings of anger. And he wrote a book called Living Water, and in that book you can see for yourself how water crystals form according to emotions and feelings transmitted to them. The difference between transmitting feelings of love or gratitude and feelings of anger, the way the crystals grow is totally different. So these are only two examples I've given you of what science is saying about how our mind and emotions actually affect physical reality. But needless to say, as I said at the beginning, many scientific experiments have been conducted around the world. Very sensitive experiments can be influenced by the mind of the observer. So this is scientific fact. Now, my question for you is, what dominant thoughts and emotions are you transmitting out into your environment? And what sort of life are you creating for yourself? And what sort of life would you love to create for yourself? Because you do have the power. We do, as human beings, have the power to change our dominant thoughts and emotions. And I had a really profound experience of this myself about 12 years ago. I'd been very successful in business. I had a very successful company. I sold it to a multinational back in 2001. And through an awful set of experiences, I trusted the wrong people. I made really bad investments, and a couple of years later we lost everything. I didn't have a cent left in the world, but I had a wife and I had a baby who had just been born. And when you have a wife and a baby son and you cannot feed them, it's very exciting. Not exciting, very frightening, extremely frightening. And I used to waken up every morning just feeling so fearful because I couldn't feed my wife or a baby. And this came down to, as I said, there was a set of circumstances that really plunged me into fear. And because my dominant emotion was fear, and because I expected more bad things to happen, that's exactly what I got. I drew into my environment even more awful experiences. So it spiraled, it got out of control. Because I was pumping out into my environment feelings of fear and expecting more bad stuff to happen, that's exactly what happened. And I reached the point where I was desperate. And it's amazing when you're desperate, sometimes what can happen. And I picked up a book that was written a long, long time ago, and that book had a profound effect on my life. In it, I really discovered that my dominant thoughts and emotions were the problem here, and that I had to change my dominant thoughts and emotions to change what was happening to us. And I decided to create this, what I call my crazy gratitude experiment. And every 30 minutes of the day, I would check with myself to see what had been my most dominant thought and emotion during the previous 30 minutes. And I replaced it through gratitude. Just literally remembering that feeling of gratitude, pulling it up out of my socks. Wasn't easy at first, but everything changed from this point. Within 3 days, I started seeing all sorts of wonderful synchronicities, coincidences that affect me profoundly to this day, many, many, many years later. Everything changed when I started changing my inner world, when I started changing what I was transmitting out into the universe. Everything started to change from that point. Now, years later, I have several successful businesses. I'm a best-selling author. This experience was horrendously painful, incredibly frightening, but I'm really grateful that it happened, because it taught me about the power of our mind and our emotions. And I know that you can totally change any situation. You can transform any situation, no matter how dire your circumstances are, by using this crazy gratitude experiment and by taking back control over your dominant thoughts and emotions. And it's a conscious choice. It just doesn't happen automatically. But I assure you, you can do this. Now, if you visit my website at mikepettigrew.com, I go into this in a lot of detail. And I have training courses. I've got free webinars, free training courses, and ebooks that you can download. And if you go to my website at mikepettigrew.com, please do fill out the form. Get access to these webinars, these free training programs. There's even a free membership site where there's lots of motivational material, and I go into my experience in a lot more detail. So thanks so much for watching today, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon. And please do subscribe and also share this video with others. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode, and before I go, I have a very special offer for you, which I'll explain in a moment. But before I do, I just want to say that if you've enjoyed this episode, then please do give us a like below this video, because when you do this, it enables other people to also benefit from it. Of course, if you'd like to leave a comment, then you're most welcome to do so, and I'll be really happy to hear from you. Now, if you're watching this episode on YouTube, then please do remember to subscribe to my channel. And you can also listen to my Transformation and Empowerment podcast on iTunes. Now, let me tell you about the special bonus I mentioned a moment ago, because if you go to my website right now at mikepettigrew.com, then for a limited time only, you can get free lifetime access to our special members-only area. Membership will give you access to all sorts of inspiring and empowering videos and training materials that you won't find anywhere else on my website. And again, right now, membership is completely free, but I can really only offer this for a limited time. So I strongly recommend that you get your membership right now, and I believe you will find it a very valuable resource and source of inspiration and empowerment. And you can sign up and get immediate access from any page on my website. So again, thank you so much for watching this episode, and I look forward to serving you again soon.